Hello, dudes, dudettes, duders, and everyone in between. Today we're going to cover how to vastly improve the quality of your Zoom presence by incorporating Keynote into your video feed. The cool thing about this is that you don't need any hardware beyond a computer and a webcam. We're going to be doing everything in free software. You'll need Zoom and Keynote to get started, and towards the end of this tutorial, we'll be adding OBS to the signal change. You'll find links to download the necessary software in the description below, right past the like and subscribe buttons. By the end of this video, you'll know how to add graphical elements to your Zoom broadcasts, including overlays, backgrounds, animated slides, and even live video feeds. Finally, we'll use OBS to tie everything together to make your broadcasts as clean as possible. While you can do everything in this tutorial with a webcam, I'm using a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K camera and an A10 Mini Pro to get my video signal into the computer. A webcam will work just fine, but as my Uncle Greg taught me when I went off to college, it is never okay to be the worst dressed in the room, but it's always okay to be the best. With that in mind, let's put a tux on your Zoom presence. When you're broadcasting on Zoom, you've got some tools built into the software for putting information on the screen. You've got your name in the lower corner to let people know who you are. You've got a whiteboard for jotting notes, and you've got screen share. And of course, there's the background replacement, which is good for privacy if you don't want to be showing off your environment, but is it classy? When you want to add more graphical elements and presentation slides to your broadcasts, it's time to crack open Keynote. So let's do that now. We're going to create a new document and then create a background that matches our current background. I always kick off with a dark background and lighter text. Anything you can do to make staring at a screen easier for your audience is a favor that is appreciated. We'll create a blank slide and then create a square. We'll use this square to be our background, so stretch it to the full size of your canvas. The next thing we want to do is change the fill of this square. Well, you could choose a color from this little color selector. We're going to get a bit more shine on you. First, we'll change this to a gradient fill. Next, we will base these colors on the actual background that is actually behind me. To do that, we need to bring in a live video feed. Click Media and then click Live Video. You can now reference your actual background and build a gradient based off of that. Click the color selector next to your start color and then click this eyedropper and choose the darkest value from your background. Click the color selector next to your end color, click the eyedropper, and then click the lightest color in your background. Just a quick note on lighting. I like to light top down on the subject and bottom up in the background. This allows for a natural separation of the subject from the background, but it's also nice because it makes it look like my butt is glowing. And that is the definition of classy. Finally, adjust the angle of your gradient so it doesn't feel like a default computer setting. To demonstrate why this is helpful, I'm going to duplicate this slide, increase the video of me to full frame, and center it. Then I'll delete the live video from the second frame. When we play this back, you'll see that when we switch between slides, the transition feels natural. This gradient slide will be the basis for the rest of our presentation, so I'm going to lock that layer now as I don't want it changing. To do that, right-click and press Lock. Now we can duplicate this frame as much as we like and they will all look the same. Let's add some text elements to our slideshow. If you watch this channel, you know that I'm a fan of Avenir Next. I think of it as the Futura that hasn't been clubbed to death by film students. Also, since the background is dark, we'll change it to white text so it pops off the screen a bit. Finally, we'll go back to our style table and create a new style based on these decisions. Now, when we create new shapes, we don't have to build the look from scratch each time. As you're adding text, do the audience the favor of making sure that your design is simple, that your text reinforces what you're saying, and that you're keeping your text as succinct as possible. We're now ready to introduce this slide to Zoom, and how we're going to do that is by playing to a window and then screen sharing that window to Zoom. To do that, click on the Play drop-down menu and then change from In Full Screen to In Window, and then click Play. Now we tango over to Zoom, share screen, and then select your Keynote output. Those are the basic ingredients to get you started, and I imagine you're already seeing how powerful a tool this can be. In fact, I imagine that viewership on this video is going to drop by half at this very moment because you now have enough tools to play for hours. Before you go though, consider hitting that like and subscribe. For those of you still hanging out, first of all, thank you. Second, let's make this even better. There's two things about this slide that bug me. The first is that it's a motionless image. We could be doing this with a JPEG, which means we're wasting the higher functionality of Keynote. Second, the speaker is conspicuously absent from the frame. Let's fix both of those concerns. The first thing we'll do is add an animate on for the bullet points. We'll use the keyboard animation so that it feels like it's being typed as we speak. Now, when you play the slide, there are some light animation elements that help bring it to life. Next, we want to bring the speaker back into the frame. There are two ways to do this, and one is right and the other is wrong. We'll do the wrong way first and then explain why not to do it that way. First, click Media and then click Live Video. From there, you can resize the frame, and it's looking pretty good already. Unfortunately, there's stuff going on under the hood that will limit us later in our presentation. I'm going to delete that live video, and now we'll do it the correct way. Go to your slide with the full screen live video and duplicate that slide. Go back to the slide with your text and select your text elements. Copy them and paste them onto your new full frame video slide. Then resize your live video frame to suit the text. We can now delete our old text frame. In fact, we can delete all those extra slides as well. The reason we're duplicating the video slide instead of just creating a new live video instance is that each element in Keynote has a unique ID. When you create a new media element, it has a new ID, even if it's visually identical to another media element. For our presentations, we want to create one live video feed with one ID because it allows us to have even fancier pants when it comes time to broadcast. To see these fancy pants in action, select the full frame video slide and click the Animate tab. Now add a magic move transition and you'll see that Keynote automatically transitions the size of the video and smoothly introduces or removes elements from the frame that aren't necessary. Now let's duplicate the full frame slide and place it after our text slide. Then we'll add a magic move transition leading out of the text slide. When we play this, you'll see that we now seamlessly start full screen. We make way for the text elements that reinforce our presentation, and then smoothly come back out of the text plate to continue a focused, eye contact discussion with our audience. These are pretty fancy pants, aren't they? But they're just not fancy enough for me. The last thing we're going to do is add an overlay. For this tutorial, we're going to do a simple lower third, but overlays can be anything that will help reinforce your presentations. I mean anything. To make a lower third, first click Shape and add a square with rounded edges. Resize it and adjust the fill to be consistent with your presentation. Change your text and you're almost done. Add an animate in and an animate out, and then play your slideshow back. Experiment with different transitions to get exactly the look you want, but for now, this will do for us. There are tons of tools and presets included in Keynote that go beyond the scope of this tutorial, and I encourage you to play around with them until you find something that speaks to your very soul. If nothing speaks to your very soul, remember that you can create and set styles like we did with our shape earlier in this tutorial. So your very soul can speak to the software instead of vice versa. We have improved the quality of our presentation greatly, but we aren't quite out of the woods yet. We still have to get it into Zoom, and there are a couple of challenges ahead of us. The first is that Zoom limits the screen share frame rate to 15 frames per second tops and usually broadcasts at even less than that. By adding all of these video elements, it's no longer acceptable to be broadcasting at less than 24 frames per second. This is where OBS comes in. What we're going to do in OBS is create a virtual camera. If you're using still slides or slides with simple animation, it's sufficient to play back at 15 frames per second. As we introduce the live video feed into our presentations, the goal is to increase the connection that you have with your audience. Broadcasting at 5 frames per second will only create separation, not connection. As a means of demonstration, are you paying attention to what I'm saying, or are you focused on the fact that my frame rate looks like donkey vomit right now? Back at 24 frames per second, you can focus on what I'm saying, which is donkey vomit. Aren't you glad that we have this connection so that we can really focus on donkey vomit? OBS will let us retain a healthy frame rate. When you open OBS, it might seem intimidating. Don't worry, we only need a couple of tools in this software to achieve our goals. Go to your sources window and click the plus button and add a window capture. From the drop-down menu, select your Keynote presentation and click OK. Play your Keynote presentation and then resize your window in OBS to fit your full canvas. Now, as you click through your presentation, you'll see it is playing in OBS. Finally, click Start Virtual Camera. From here, you can go into Zoom and open your settings. Go to Camera and switch it to the OBS Virtual Camera. You'll see that what's playing in Keynote is what's playing in OBS is what's playing in Zoom. There are easy ways to break this chain though, so you have to be a bit careful. First, don't resize the Keynote window. OBS is referencing a specific frame at a specific size and aspect ratio. If you change the size, you'll have to go back into OBS to fix the image. Second, don't navigate through your deck backwards. This can sometimes gum up the video elements and cause increased slip between the picture and sound. Instead of tapping the back button, go to the top bar of your window, open the navigator, and select the slide you want to go to. Unfortunately, picture and sound will be out of sync in Zoom. You're feeding a video signal from Keynote to OBS to Zoom, and the audio feed is going directly into Zoom. It's simply going to take longer to get the picture out than the audio. It isn't a lot, and if you feel it's a fair trade-off for the universe of visual elements you can add to your Zoom meetings by using Keynote, that's totally cool. Unfortunately, if you think it's too much, I'm currently out of free solutions at this point. If you want to add a bit of delay to your audio chain so that it better matches your video feed, I recommend downloading something like Audio Hijack, which costs actual real-world money. Personal opinion, for early experiments in broadening the scope of your broadcasts, don't spend money. Just get comfortable with the signal chain and the expanded tool sets. I buy new gear and software when I'm absolutely sure I'm banging my head on the ceiling of what can be done. Once you're comfortable and confident with these tools, then it's worth the investment. Also, who knows, maybe Apple introduces a virtual camera out directly from Keynote sooner than later, but that's just wishful, hopeful thinking. That covers it for this week's episode. We hope that you've learned something, or at least enjoyed the video, or at least didn't hate it. I imagine you've got a lot of clicking to do as you experiment with these new tool sets. So, what's 3 more clicks anyway? Like, subscribe, and that little bell. Come on, man, be cool. Of course, if you have any questions about this workflow, please leave them in the comments below. Let's get into housekeeping. First of all, I have been appearing as a panelist on Office Hours, a daily program hosted by Alex Lindsay. Alex is a constant inspiration when it comes to Keynote, and I've only scratched the surface of what you can learn from him. Link in the description. We do have a Patreon and, link in the description. If you want our package of light leaks, you need do no more than go to our website to get them for free. Link in the description. Also, I've been enjoying ASCII art. Link in the description. Now, please turn off YouTube and go make something amazing and personal and flawed and beautiful. Bye.